This leads us to another core concept, which is a concept in object-oriented programming called classes. A class is a structure that contains methods or functions and attributes or variables to form the concept of an object. So a class is the definition of an object. When you define the class, you're defining the potential of the object. So it's an encapsulation of the methods and variables. When you use a class, you instantiate a class into an instance. So somebody designs a car, and they design all of the features of the car, but then a car factory produces an actual physical vehicle, which is the entity. So the class is the potential of the entity, and the instance is the entity. So when you go to use an object, the object will be created from a class definition of that object type, and will have that collection of properties, and you can actually store values against that object. So you can say, this car is red, that car is yellow. Those are different attributes, but the definition of the car is the same type of car. So that's an object and then an instance of an object. Next, we will see a visual representation of how this works. So here we have class potential of a person. So now we're going to try to define out a person. A person might have the following attributes. A person might have a first name and a last name attribute. A person object could have a method to get the first name and set the first name, get last name, set last name. So when we call get first name, it will go and look to the attribute first name and present us that value. When we call get last name, similarly, it'll go to the last name attribute and it'll present us that value.
So it works simply like, hey Brian, what is your first name?
My first name is Brian.
And that is because Brian's get first name method in his brain went to his repository of attributes and pulled that out. Now let's say that Brian wants to change his name to Byron. What do you do then?
Then I set my first name to Byron and realize I just set my name to a typo and feel like an ass. So when we develop a method and we go to write the instructions for set first name, all we really do there is first name is equal to whatever we told it to input, and set last name stores the last name value that we tell it to. We define the person as something that contains these attributes. So now we're binding these two particular attributes to the concept of a person. Also, these methods only apply to this object type person. So now we have the class definition of what a person is. A person is something that has an attribute first name and a last name, whatever those are, and has methods that interact with the attributes.
Now the important thing to realize at this point is even though we have a class that is defined, we don't have a person.
No. We just have the concept of a person.
Exactly. So now, Brian, what do we have next?
We have a person.
Oh!
So we instantiate the person class to be a particular person. So a person has attributes that are defined, like this blue person is blue and has a first name Bob. Blue Bob. Now we can make more people. So we can make more instances of people. One which is Green,
which is
Gary.
probably an alien of some kind.
Yeah. And a red person, which is Rosie. So we have Bob, Gary, and Rosie. They're all different instances of people that were created by our definition of what a person was.
Now, one thing also to mention that we didn't mention here, but we will, is there are a few other structures that are closely linked to this concept. That is the concept of a structure union and an enum. Mm-hmm. These are all types that are so close to the object-oriented concept, but they're just not They just haven't taken that leap. So if you understand this, then the concept of the other things are going to be easy, and that's the reason why we didn't mention them in this presentation.
Absolutely. So I hope this was a easy to understand way of approaching the core concepts of programming, including some of the concepts in object-oriented programming. Thanks for watching.